And now, on with the show.
Yo, what's up, homies? It's your boy Mood616 here, and it is like 2:30 in the morning on a Friday night. I am just awake, and I thought maybe I would do a little bit of a video because, well, I'm fucking mad awake right now and bored. All I've been doing is watching movies, and I'm like, kind of some subpar shit and all that, you know how it goes. But anyways, man, for this video, I thought I would throw down with a company that I love. It's a Canadian distribution company called Fawn Distribution. They're, you know, relatively new. They only have about 7 titles out right now. But they actually have a brand new title coming out called Horsehead. That title is coming out, I believe it ships on May, and it's their first Blu-ray. So they're a relatively new company. They put out some, you know, some lower budget stuff, but some really interesting and good stuff. So if you've never heard of Fawn Distribution, their stuff is being released down in the US, you know, like under a different label or whatnot, have you, I don't know. But up in Canada, Fawn, so that's the website that you go to purchase this stuff. But so they released 7 titles, and the first one that they released is a film called If a Tree Falls, right there. This is kind of like one of those films where, you know, you got a bunch of people out in the woods, and a bunch of motherfuckers come and fuck with them and do some crazy shit to them. You know, it's one of those type deals, right? There's really not a lot of story to it, but you know, it's kind of one of those depressing, bleak type, low budget films. That, you know, I had fun with, man. It's not a film that you know, sit there and watch fucking over and over again unless you're depraved or fucked in the head. I don't know, but you know, this one, it's an interesting watch, man. I thought it was pretty interesting. The cool thing about Fawn is that Fawn Distribution, they actually do number their shit right there. So yeah. Anyways. That's If a Tree Falls. Next up, the second one that they released is called Devil's Night. This one right here is actually starring Daniel Harris is in this one. This one, in a way, is kind of like a Halloween ripoff, in a way. You know, it's about these frat boys that are having this party on Halloween. A bunch of years earlier, there was an accident, and of course, some dude shows up at this party, something like 10 years later. On that night, they're having the party, and, you know, it starts fucking with them. People start, you know, dying off one by one. Typical type, you know, generic slasher type. But not bad, though. You know, this isn't, like, the strongest one in the bunch, but, you know, it's a pretty interesting flick, actually. It's not so bad. It's always cool to see Daniel Harris in a film, so, shit, you can't go wrong with that, right? But, yeah, Devil's Night, slasher flick. For the third one that they released, now this one right here was actually the very first film that kind of introduced me to Fawn, and I really picked this one up solely based on the cover art alone, and I mean, you really can't, you know, pass this one up. It's called The Legend of the Psychotic Forest Ranger. Now look at that cover art right there. That's some fucking awesome shit right there. When I first watched this film, I did a review for it on Body Bags way back in the day, and I really kind of bashed this film, and I feel kind of shitty for it about that, because I rewatched it, and it's actually not as bad as I remember, you know, from the first time I watched it. But it's still not great. It's one of those films that it's like so bad it's kind of good. It's got some really campy dialogue. Actually, the dialogue's pretty bad in this film, even the effects. But what it is, it's kind of like a throwback to the 80s type feel. It's supposed to be set in the 80s, I believe. You know, it's got... The wardrobes are actually kind of off-putting a little bit because it's not so much 80s, but it's got like the 80s tunes and shit that's going on in there. But, you know, it definitely is kind of a fun watch. You know, there's a lot of these kind of throwback films that are coming out, and, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, the Legend of the Psychotic Forest Ranger, the cover art's fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah. A little bit of a sip there. Next up, for the fourth release that they have, they released a film called In the House of Flies. Now, this one right here is actually one of my favorite ones that they've released so far. I like the premise of this film because, you know, it's very simple. A couple gets abducted. I think they're at the theater. They awaken inside this kind of like this hole, like this bunker type deal, and there's a phone in there, and some dude, the guy that abducted them, starts phoning them and fucking with them. He starts making them do shit, and it's kind of like a contained horror film. You know, it's two people in a room, and you know, I really like how it all kind of comes together. And you know, generally you'd have a lot of, you know, the characters turning on each other. You know, I don't really want to spoil anything, but in the House of Flies, I really fucking dug this film, man. You know, this one was you know, definitely a favorite at the film festivals. But yeah, this is a good film, man. I really enjoyed this one, In the House of Flies. Really cool stuff. Next up, the fifth one that they released is one I've talked about a bunch of times, and that's Disco Path. Basically about a guy that goes absolutely fucking insane at you know, when he hears disco music, and starts in New York, ends up in Montreal, and just a bunch of batshit craziness going on with some disco music and the psycho and shit like that. So it's basically kind of like a slasher flick, but you know, it's fun, man. Really updated, like you know, kind of electronic, you know, kind of disco music and shit. I had a lot of fun with this, man. Disco Path, definitely a blast. The sixth one that they released is called Silent Retreat. Now this one right here is basically about, it's kind of like a retreat for girls. It's like an all-girls retreat, and what it is, it's kind of like a rehabilitation type place, because these girls have been in trouble. They get sent to this silent retreat to get better. And it is what it is. It's actually a silent retreat. They're actually not allowed to talk at this retreat. Of course, you start learning things by the guy that's running the joint, and he's all fucked up, and there's all this crazy shit going on. It's an interesting flick, man. I think it plays out pretty decent. This is one I do want to revisit. You know, I think there were some things about the ending that were kind of like wish-washy or whatever, but you know, I think the premise is really interesting, and you know, it's kind of interesting to have a premise that's, you know, at a silent retreat, because there isn't a lot of dialogue, so you get a lot of sneaking around, and it's kind of quiet, and you know, it's got a pretty good atmosphere to it. So Silent Retreat, definitely give that one a shot. And last up for the films that they've released so far is The Door. Now this is probably the best movie that they've released so far. This one right here is fantastic. It's basically about a guy that gets a job offer from, he kind of saves this dude from getting mugged. He gets offered a job, he accepts because he can't deny the pay is so good. The guy offers him a job 5 days a week, $500 a night, to simply sit inside this warehouse and watch a door. Now his job is to not let anything go in and not let anything come out. So he just watches this door. Of course, his friends show up and everything goes crazy. They end up inside the door, and that's where all the action happens. Really interesting premise, executed awesomely. It's got some really cool characters. The atmosphere is fantastic in this film. And it plays out pretty interesting. You know, it kind of keeps you thinking, and it doesn't exactly play out how you would think, or maybe it does, maybe it won't. I don't want to ruin anything. But The Door, this is fucking fantastic. The lead in this film, this girl right here, I know 13th Wolfman actually interviewed her, Alice Crocker. Oh, she's beautiful. Very, very beautiful. She does a great job in this film. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this one, man. Got this one all signed up. Yeah, I guess I must have ordered it and they were signing these ones or something. But yeah, The Door, really cool stuff, man. Oh, what can I say? But yeah, these are the, you know, 7 releases. Like I said, they got Horsehead coming out. I believe it ships for like May 2nd or something like that. So yeah, so May 2nd. But that's your 7 films right there. Yeah. Drug 'em out. Black Fawn Distribution. Awesome, awesome company. These guys are doing big things. Releasing a lot of really solid, independent, great films. Yeah, definitely give these guys a shot, man. Really digging the company and looking forward to that Blu-ray. So head over, I'll leave the link down below. So go over there, check out the products. I believe that they have free shipping too. And they have some deals on. You can get like, you know, packs of three of the films for like 24 or 30 bucks. So they work out to about, you know, whatever, 8 or 10 bucks a piece. So yeah, how can you beat that? It's not so bad. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the video, and chars.